I lived in Ashkelon or Ashdod, I would do whatever I can to own a gun. For
sure.
You're right there.
Of
You
course.
never know. But in Brooklyn, New York, it's not so necessary.
I agree with you there. Yeah, I agree with you. We're supposed to right now. Be we're supposed to have bitachon in Hashem. I know there's fear. There's this, especially. I don't know if you saw any of this footage. I didn't. But just my imagination already makes me scared.
Rabbi, yeah.
Those who actually saw it, I know people who saw it. They were like, not normal,
It's traumatizing.
not normal people. They were like for 2 or 3 days they were out of it.
I also didn't see it.
No,
I watched blurred versions of them.
I just didn't watch
Rabbi,
it.
so how is this generation different than
Watch blurred
Noah's
version.
generation?
No,
You know, because he destroyed because of all the bad things they did. How is this different bad than what they did before? Or we have like more good than evil, I don't know.
that's the thing. Hashem right now punishes us little by little,
Right.
and that takes away. That makes us different people.
For sure,
That's what
why-
Yisrael was talking about.
I didn't
He was saying that it's rectification and improvement.
Right.
So all these punishments make us better, and therefore
To
Hashem,
support each other.
and therefore we're not going to fall into and become like a generation of Mabul.
You know, I saw a video clip. I don't know if it's true. I tried to figure out if it's true or not. They had it on the concert festival. They had a Buddha statue. I don't know.
I saw that too.
I
yeah.
heard about
Real?
it.
I don't know,
Fake?
I
Yeah,
said
yeah,
no
it's
idea.
real. I heard
It's
about
real?
it, Yeah.
Why would they dance instead in front
Because
of
all
the
these
statue?
people, they're like, who goes to these concerts?
No, I don't believe it
It's-
because
I don't believe
Jewish people are not suspected to do avodah zarah like that. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I heard it.
I saw a clip. I'm like, that.
I
Could,
saw
I don't know if
There
it's
could be
from the same
anything.
concert.
They could specifically put it. There could be bad people.
You can
who-
also, yeah,
who
that's,
were trying
these
to make
days
all kinds
everything
of-
like,
Yeah,
edit-
I
You don't
edit
need
and
to.
stuff.
You don't need. There don't need to be a statue or anything like that. The fact that it was Shabbat and there were
Boys and
dancing
girls.
to the music.
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just.
There was,
That's-
there was definitely znut. There was definitely znut there.
Okay, so because of that, they deserve
But
this.
it's not only
We're not saying. No, we're not
That's
saying.
too much
We're not
to
saying.
deserve that.
That's not for us.
That's
to,
more than
that's
enough.
for Hashem to decide. That's not.
We're not saying. We're not giving reasons. Because
Right.
if you noticed, I didn't say any reasons
Right.
because they did
We
this.
don't
Because
know.
that.
And it's not only them that died, according
Exactly.
to that. So,
Exactly.
A lot of
yeah. So
religions
it's not
also
just that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
also they said that out of all the kibbutzim, there were 2 kibbutzim that
Religious,
were not
yeah.
touched
Because they were
gave
closed on Shabbos.
Shabbat.
they had a special gate or something.
Shabbat.
Yeah, definitely saved them.
So let's now see the Gemara.
But
After-
Rabbi, you're not saying anything against fighting back, though, right?
No, no.
We still have to fight back.
Still have to
Meaning,
fight
Hashem
back.
punishes us, but it doesn't mean
Have to
that
fight
we
back.
have to sit and say, "Oh, Hashem punishes us." Okay, no, you have to fight back,
You have
and
to
now
fight
is the
back.
time to
Of
beat
course,
them up
of course, of course.
and get rid of them
Yeah.
once and for all.
Not gonna give it.
That's the only solution.
Yeah, they can't-
Well, but this brings us to next point. Is it practical to get rid of
Probably not.
an entire nation that's
world.
against that?
No.
And the answer is Mashiach only could be.
Mashiach. Yeah.
If
I don't
Mashiach
care.
says get rid of him, I'll say, all right, give me the gun. But if Mashiach's not telling me to get rid
Yeah,
of him.
so we have to, this brings us again to go back to Hashem. We ask for Mashiach. At this point, I mean, I never davened to Hashem before to bring Mashiach because
At this
I
point,
thought to myself, well, like, why do we need
What's gonna
Mashiach?
prevent-
Everything is great.
what's
Now I'm
gonna-
davening every day.
No, what's going to prevent them? If we don't get rid of them, then we didn't solve anything. Because what's going to prevent them from doing it again? People, what's going to stop them from doing this again?
Exactly, this is the whole
Nothing.
thing that's going on. But,
We're going to do this all the time now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pastor, and,
Yeah, yeah, of course.
they
of
see it's an open
Of course.
invitation.
Well, no. Look, I'm a Rebbe in the classroom, and when you're teaching teenagers, you have a little bit of that same mentality, because the mentality of a young, undeveloped boy is exactly that. I will do everything, I will do as much as I could get away with. And I've been doing this for 25 years, exactly that. Exactly what needs to be done now in Gaza. Retaliation, consequences, showing who's the boss, showing power. And I've been doing it in my classroom. Why? Because If someone is disturbing the class, if someone wants to have fun, wants to just have free for all, I have to put him in his place. I have to pull some strings. I have many, many different ways of doing it. I could call the parent in, I could suspend, I could talk to principal. So I've been doing it. I know how to do this. I know how to do this. And I know what needs to be done there. And even today when I was biking over there and I was confronting all those guys, I said, this is not different than my classroom. Just look at my classroom. I come in every single day with Ma'anachnu b'shem Hashem naskir. I am coming in with Hashem's hand, Hashem's name. The only power I have is help from Hashem. I am really the Rebbe. I am really the teacher. Each one of us, Jewish people, when we confront the Goyim, we don't cower. You're actually their mentors. We're supposed to teach them. We're supposed to teach them how to be people, how to behave.
Exactly.
How to behave. So you look them straight in the eye and you say, you being a jerk, this is what you're supposed to do. Put your gum down, calm down, and shape up. That's how I speak to young children, young boys. And eventually when they see that you're in business, that you care about them, we're supposed to care about people.
Of course.
We're supposed to get all people. We are the leaders of the entire world. And we are the light unto the world. Question, how do we do that job? How do we do being a light unto the world? Number one is that we have to view ourselves as example and someone who is going to tell them. Don't be afraid to tell them. And they are looking up to you. They want to see.
Respect you more.
They're going to they respect you.
Like now,
Because
the
you're
whole
doing the
world
right
is
thing.
watching what Israel, what's going on. The whole
Yeah.
Honestly, half the time, I feel like Goyim are seeking Jewish validation. Like, validation from Jews. Oh, you have to accept our way. And this. Why do I have to accept your way? They're always trying to get our approval. Like, as if our belief, our way of doing things is like stopping them from having fulfilled.
Yeah, it is, because they know you have the MS, and your MS contradicts what they want to do.
Right.
And every time they see you, you remind them. So,
Once they see you doing it, it's okay. It's already like askama from the rapper.
What do you
Maybe
mean?
they
Oh.
just want to do.
It's
Maybe
like,
they
oh,
want
you can
us
do it,
to
so I
do
can
what
do
we
it
were
too.
supposed to do.
they know the
That was
truth.
a mitzvah.
The guy know the truth. And they see a Jew reminds them, oh, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, so you stand in the way.
They say before 1948, when there was a Jewish government, I mean,
Palestine.
State.
before the state, before the
British government.
secular Jewish government, which is today's government,
Mm-hmm.
the Jews that lived in Israel were governed by rabbis. They were governed by leaders. It's called Yishuv. There were people who lived there, and who do you think the Jews look up to? The rabbis. And all the Arabs, yes, sometimes they would hurt us. There were
massacres.
There were pogroms and massacres. But when they needed rain, they came to Jews to ask, to Darwin for rain. When they needed anything from Hashem, or they were in trouble, they knew that the Jews are the ones. So the respect that when we are example, when we live properly, when we keep the Torah, then again, all our enemies are gonna make peace with us and respect us.
100%.
Okay, so that's in the Gemara like this. Ve'elu mishum mitzvah, and these things, even though they're mitzvah, you're not allowed to do on Yom Tov.
Can I just ask one question, Rabbi?
Right here, ve'elu.
Rabbi, can I ask you one question?
One second, let me just find the place. Ve'elu mishum mitzvah, here.
Of the Elo.
I
Ve'elu,
have a
there.
question.
Fourth line down.
Full line from that.
I just have one question. If we can, let's say, bomb, right? Just one question. If we can bomb all of Gaza, but we'll kill civilians, let's say, versus if you send in troops, and this way you can you can save more civilian lives, right? But you're risking Jewish lives, soldiers, right? So what would you say? Like I'm saying, is it better to just bomb them versus send in Jewish soldiers?
Al Pi Halakha? Like
Yeah,
Torah?
so-
Torah?
Yeah, because now you're risking Jewish lives, Jewish soldiers.
This requires a special siyata d'shamaya a special Ruach HaKodesh to answer.
Right.
Because
When-
he will say, oh,
when
send
we
it,
make
send it,
decisions-
send it.
Today, when we make these decisions, you know who we go? The biggest Gedolim. However, at Lav Davka, the Israeli government, first of all, you need to have all the facts at hand.
Right.
But in order to really make the
Be a
decision,
commander.
you have to be commander. Now, we don't know much,
Exactly.
and we shouldn't know, because otherwise the secrets will be out.
Exactly.
So, in order for me to answer this question, I have two
Here.
things. I have to know the situation on the place, and also I have to be a very great rabbi who is able to make these decisions. I'm neither.
No, you're a great rabbi.
No. Okay? All right, let's go on. I'll give up. Mitzvah. These things are, even though they're mitzvah, you're not allowed to do it on Yom Tov. Lo makdishin, you're not allowed to consecrate an animal. V'lo ma'arichin, and you're not allowed to even consecrate your own worth to Beit HaMikdash. Erech,
Arichin?
ma'arichin, there is a concept. There's even the whole masechta called Eruchin. It's a parsha in Torah that says that a person could donate his worth to Beit HaMikdash. In the olden days, every man, depending on his age and ability, in the slave society, he actually had a price tag.
Right.
So you could donate your own worth. Now, believe it or not,
How does that
it
work?
was considered to be a good thing to donate your own worth to Beit HaMikdash. Because what you're basically saying, symbolically, you're saying,
Sacrifice.
my whole self is for Hashem.
Yeah, so everything he earns, he gives to the Beit HaMikdash?
No, his
No,
self,
not
you value how much are you worth.
Yeah, but how can you give yourself to the Beit HaMikdash? Usually,
If somebody would hire you,
You
as
don't
a
become
slave, then
you don't become the
Oh.
property of Beit HaMikdash. You not become the korban
give
of
money.
Beit HaMikdash.
How do you
It's only money.
Oh,
And
money.
he's
Oh,
like,
You give money.
exchange your
You're
value.
donating
Oh, now I got it,
your
I got it,
worth.
I got it.
Your money.
how do you decide how much
Cool.
you're worth?
There is a way. The Torah tells us.
You
that,
go,
according to the slave in the slave society.
Carfax.com.
what's that, Wall Street? No, what's that?
Blueprint. What do you call that? site?
There is. We don't. Today we don't.
What's that?
Today we don't use that. We don't know.
Rich people.
But in the slave society, not only property. Today we have
Forbes.
Forbes.
property has a tag, price
You and
tag.
Forbes.
Merchandise has price tag. People don't have price tag, but in the slave society, even people have price tag. And you could donate your own worth to Beit HaMikdash.
Nowadays, if you ask them how much they're worth, they say how much they make a year.
Yeah, it's a different concept. It's a different concept. So it says in the Gemara, you're not allowed to do this on Shabbat or Yom Tov. V'lo machrimin. And you're not allowed to also donate any objects to Beit HaMikdash on Shabbat and Yom Tov. So the Gemara asks, why? Gezerah mishum mekach u'memkar. It's a gezerah because of mekach u'memkar also means give and take, which means selling and buying. In other words, well, Gemara is saying that any exchange of ownership is prohibited on Shabbat and Yom Tov. What are the examples of change of ownership? The prime example is sale, is selling something. Am I allowed to sell something on Shabbat and Yom Tov? No, I'm not allowed to, even verbally. I cannot go to some business deals. I cannot do it on Yom Tov.
Transactional.
Transactions.
No, but I'm saying there's an actual malacha of
How does
transaction.
It's not a malach, it's midrabban. We're going to see Rashi now.
How
Rashi is going to explain.
does aliyot and stuff for the Torah work on Shabbat?
That's mitzvah. When you get an aliyah, you're really donating to the shul, and they're giving you kavod of getting this aliyah. There's nothing really changes hands. Nothing changes hands.
There's like
And also they say because they said it may be a little bit similar to a transaction or a sale, but because of mitzvah, Chachamim allowed it. But let's see what the Rashi says. Why? It's a Rashi, third line from the top. The lemekach umemkar damu. These things are similar to buying and selling. Shemotzi mirishuto lirishut hekdesh. He relinquishes his possession and it becomes now Beit HaMikdash. Can you imagine? You see, do you think that Beit HaMikdash, the rabbis who ran Beit HaMikdash, they would want people to do this on Shabbat? Yes. They still prohibited it. Because even though it's their gain, they prohibited it. Because over there is a real transaction. Like you're making your money, your animal, consecrating your animal leaves your possession and becomes Beit HaMikdash's possession. or you're making your own worth consecrating it to Beit HaMikdash, you're making some of your money kadosh to the Beit HaMikdash. Okay. So then it says, Meko memkar asur min hamikra, dechtiv umotzeh chavtzecha v'davar. So Rashi has two pshatim. One pshat is that it's asur from the pasuk. It's actually midearaita. And in other pshat, Meko memkar atili idei ktiva. The reason why it's asur because maybe you will write things down. It's not midearaita, but it's because you will write it down. So Rashi says that there's two reasons why a memkar or business transaction could be asur. One is midearaita, because maybe midearaita means you're not allowed to even talk about business or seal the business deal or make transactions verbally. That's midearaita. There's an approach that maybe midearaita is asur. And according to second pshat, no, midearaita is not asur. It's not prohibited midearaita because you're not making any actions, you're not creating anything, you're not building anything. It's only asur midarabanan because maybe you will write things down. Okay, I owe you this check, I owe you this money. Now, what's the difference between if it's midaraita or if it's midarabanan?
Because if it's a midarabanan, then there are probably cases where you can allow it.
That's one example. Another example the poskim bring. Let's say I made a sale conditional on something that's going to happen on Shabbat. For example, let's say on Friday, I'll tell Israel, you could have my car if on Friday you will bring me a bottle of whiskey. On Shabbat, not on Friday. You could have my car on Friday. We basically we conclude the deal on Friday. It becomes yours, but with it's only yours with the condition that if on Shabbat you'll bring me a bottle of wine.
And this is not on Shabbat, you're making this deal.
You make it on Friday. You're making this deal on Friday.
Oh, yeah. Well,
But the completion of but the condition that will make this valid has to happen on Shabbat. Has to happen on Shabbat. So if it's midearaita, it's asur because Shabbat has to. Shabbat, you cannot involve Shabbat in the
So then you
transaction.
wouldn't be able to get married because if
But if it's
get married-
midrabanan, let me just finish the sentence.
Okay.
But if it's midrabanan, if it's only midrabanan, then it's fine because
you did it beforehand.
you did it before, and on Shabbat you didn't do anything. You just brought a bottle of whiskey. Did bring bottle of whiskey or wine is mekach memker? No, it's just the fulfillment of the condition. Fulfillment of the condition. So that's not a problem. So that's one example of difference. Just to give you an example of what could be the difference between these two.
How do we hold? What do we hold?
Well, the rule is whatever reason Rashi brings at the end is the main psak. He brings the midrabanan one. He brings the midrabanan.
Interesting.
So it's midrabanan. Now there is a halacha that on the second day of Yom Tov, one is allowed to move muktzah l'tzorech refuah for health. Therefore, it's an interesting halacha that on second day of Yom Tov you actually could take money and go to the store and buy, if you need a medicine, you could buy it with money.
on Yom Tov.
On Yom Tov, only second day of Yom Tov.
That's saving life.
No, even if there's not, it's not a question of life. That.
No? Just
Because they're a banana, it has that leniency.
Oh, yeah, because there's halacha that you're allowed to, for refuah, you're allowed to move muktzah, transgress the rabbanon, on the second day. Oh, and moving money is muktzah, and it's a muktzah for refuah. So, and also the actual transaction, if you just putting it down, and they're giving you, yes, you're right. It's on first day of Yom Tov. This very scenario that I'm describing to you would be prohibited. That's the Gemara we're learning now, that you're not allowed to do the memkach. But on the second day they permitted that muktzah. So maybe I'm making a small mistake because mekach or memker is possible that it still is asur, I mean, you may have to, you're allowed to move money, but you have to buy it you have to stipulate with a clerk, the one who's selling to you, that you just put it, you have to like in your mind say, I'm just putting money down. I'm not buying it. Or you have to either just officially tell it to them, or you have to say it to yourself, then it's permissible.
If you're not buying it, then you're stealing it.
No, it's okay, for your sick one, whoever is sick, it's fine.
You're leaving money.
It's fine. The main thing, you put down money, you can steal whatever you want. Okay? But let's
Of
go
that-
on.
Of that value.
Let's go on. Let's go on. Then the Gemara says like this. V'lo magbiin trumot u'maasrot. We're not allowed to separate truma and maaser. Pshita, the Gemara says pashut. It's totally understandable. It's obvious. It's obvious. Gemara says, Tanya Rav Yosef, lo nitzrecha ela liitna lekohen bo b'yom. No, we're talking about if you're going to give it to Kohen on that day. Meaning, maybe Rashi explains that maybe it's Simchat Yom Tov. And I was like this. Let's say you're going to separate Truma and Maaser, and on that day give it to Kohen. There's two ways to, again, Hakira. How do you look at separating, yourself? What's Truma? You have a pile of grain, you just collected it on Erev Yom Tov, on the day before Yom Tov. You're not allowed literally to eat it unless you separate a little bit for Kohen and 1/10 of what's left to Levi. Let's say on Yom Tov, I take some of the produce and I bring it to Kohen as a gift for Yom Tov.
How much do you have to give? Any amount?
There's no prescribed amount.
Not part of the truma, just separate.
You say like this, I'm not really separating Truma. I am just bringing a Kohen a gift on Yom Tov. He eats it. It's a mitzvah to eat stuff on Yom Tov, right? But it so happens to be de facto, it becomes also separating the Truma. And now you're allowed to eat. Now the halacha is that before you separate Truma, you're not allowed to eat even from what you have. The entire pile is asur to eat. But so you are making it mutar on Yom Tov, which is prohibited. But maybe you could do it by just giving some to Yom Tov. It so happens to be my next door neighbor is Kohen. I want to give him some food, some fruit, a present. Oh, I'm taking this and giving to him. I separated Truma, now it's permissible. You may think that that's permissible. The answer is no. Can you imagine? Still no. That's exactly why we're saying in the Mishnah that you're not allowed to do it. Because Gemara asks, it's Pshita. You're not allowed to separate Truma. It's Pashut. We already learned the entire Masechta that you're not allowed to separate Truma and Maaser. Gemara says maybe we're talking about when you didn't really separate it and left it. And later you're going to give it to Yom Tov. Right away, as you took it, you brought it to Yom Tov. And you could claim that you're just giving him a present. And you may think that it's permissible. The answer is still not. The Gemara says, but that's only if the produce was collected from before Yom Tov, and it was asur from before Yom Tov, and you didn't have a chance to separate Truma. In other words, when are we prohibiting separating Truma and Maaser from produce? If I had a chance to do it from the day before, and I didn't, I cannot do it on Yom Tov and on Echad. But there is also a type of Truma. There's also a type of Truma that's called Challah. How does Challah work? Если я замесил тесто, if I make dough, I cannot eat that dough until I separate a little piece for Kohen. It's called Challah. Do you know that they would bake every single day because they didn't have plastic and they could not preserve bread to be fresh? And they would not bake on Shabbat because it's prohibited, but they would bake bread on Yom Tov because you're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. And Gemara says, since whatever challah, whatever bread you baked on Yom Tov, you made the dough on Yom Tov in the morning, You couldn't separate the challah from there. It only appeared on Yom Tov itself. Therefore, that type of challah you're allowed to separate. Why? Because it follows the final logic. If without separating challah, I'm not allowed to eat it. So then, taking off challah is part of cooking it, part of preparing it to be edible. So Gemara says that don't confuse. You're only not allowed to separate truma or challah or maaser from something that was already zameshana, something that was already made from before Yom Tov, and you could have done it before Yom Tov. But if you made fresh dough on Yom Tov, you're allowed to separate challah.
1 second. So you are allowed to separate if it's from collected wheat? 1 second. One second. So what aren't you allowed to do on Yom Tov? Which?
Maaser.
Truma, maaser, or from separating challah from dough that was mixed before Yom Tov.
Before.
Oh, right, before.
Because you could have done it before.
Yeah.
But from freshly mixed dough on Yom Tov, you're allowed to separate
It's
maaser.
5 pounds, right? The halakha is you can make 5 pounds.
You want to say it like this? We're going to have 10 minutes and we'll start.
So you're saying if you collect wheat on Yom Tov, are you allowed to collect wheat on Yom Tov?
No.
If you have
You're
wheat
not-
and you want to use it on Yom Tov, you want to use the
So
wheat.
it's not practical. Look, if you somehow collected wheat, you transgressed and you collected wheat on Yom Tov, since you were not able to separate truma before, maybe, but maybe also not, because we say that since you were not allowed to get it in the first place, you're not allowed to eat it.
When would you separate something? Just understand, like
Before.
you.
If
No.
you just made the
I'm
dough
saying,
on Yom
when
Tov.
is this applicable that you can't separate? Like how
Practical.
would you practically separate something? That's my question.
Let's see.
If you got fruits and vegetables that weren't yet separated,
Yeah.
and then you pick them before Shabbos, and then on Shabbos you start
You
separating.
want to eat them, but you have to separate truma and maaser. That's not allowed.
But then you can say the same logic. Oh, the only way to eat it now is by separating the mice.
The Chachamim did not allow you. They said since you could have done it from before,
Uh-huh.
you didn't, so that's it's off
Uh-huh.
limits.
Off limits,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Just like any other like kind of malakha act.
But on the same token, you see that in certain situations, the rabbis were understanding, and they said sometimes it's it's called impossible, like in the freshly mixed dough, that they allow you to separate.
Interesting. Uh-huh.
Now, if it would be the araita, they would not be allowed.
Right. Only the rabbanan.
Because it's the rabbanon, they call the shots. They say what's prohibited and what's permissible.
Also, when you shecht an animal, do you have to give certain parts of the animal to the kohen or something?
Yeah.
That would be the same thing, no?
But over there, it's different. In the case of truma, maaser, and challah, you're not allowed to eat until you separate this thing. When you shecht an animal,
You can eat it, you can give it
you
later.
could eat that.
Uh-huh.
You could give later, but you're allowed to eat the rest of it. So it's different. Okay. So then again, the Gemara continues. V'hani mishum rishut, ika mishum shvut leka. And these examples are only because of rishut and shvut, meaning these are code names for something which is prohibited by the Rabbon, but not mitzvah. V'hani mishum mitzvah, ika mishum shvut leka. Amar Rav Yitzchak lo meboi kamar, lo meboi shvut grita da asur, ela afilu shvut dirishut nami asur. Lo meboi shvut dirishut asur, ela afilu shvut mitzvah nami asur. Okay. Fine. This I don't want to explain this to you because this is more complex. Let's go on. After 2 dots, we said Kol Eilu B'Yom Tov Amru.
Is this a Mishnah or a brace?
This is Gemara. This is Gemara explaining the Mishnah.
Kol Elu B'Yom Tov?
B'Yom Tov Amru. We said that all these things are asur on Yom Tov, just like on Shabbat. Gemara asks stira, a contradiction. Ureminu, we ask a contradiction because there is a Mishnah before. Meshilin, you're allowed to throw down derech haruba from a roof through the sky roof. In other words, the person had wheat on his roof, and in the old days their roofs were flat. It was used as a porch, and they also had aruba, which is like a lid, an entrance to go up, and let's say it's raining and your wheat is gonna get ruined. Are you allowed to go up to the roof with a shovel and throw down all your produce into the house to save it from water? So it says, Meshil, you're allowed to throw it down derech haruba through the roof b'yom tov, alo b'shabbat. You're allowed to do it on Yom Tov and not on Shabbat. So the Gemara explains before, why is it only permissible on Yom Tov and not Shabbat? Because on Shabbat, it's a big tircha. It's really a very, very difficult job. It's going to make a person be busy the entire day and sweat and work hard. So we say on Yom Tov, they allowed it because otherwise it's going to sustain a loss. But on Shabbat, it's so important to rest on Shabbat and to be completely calm that you have to leave your fruit and leave your produce or merchandise up in the roof, even if it's going to get ruined, and not to exert yourself and not to spend the entire Shabbat trying to save it. So you see one interesting example. Something which is Asur on Shabbat, but it's not Asur on Yom Tov. So if we made a rule earlier in our Mishnah that whatever is Asur on Shabbat is also Asur on Yom Tov, then this does not fit into, this is an example of that contradicts that. Something which is Asur on Shabbat and permissible on Yom Tov.
But this is only the Oraita.
No, it's also the Rabbanan. Because what are you doing? You just, with shovel,
Right.
you're shoveling something which is non-muktzah. Non-muktzah.
So what is the problem to begin with? Like, what's the issue?
The idea is
Shabbat.
It's called exertion. It's
Oh, like work?
working too hard, right?
But you can ask if it's valid or...
So on Yom Tov they permit it. On Shabbat they said that it's asur. For example,
Because on Yom Tov you can cook, so maybe you're saving it to cook it, to use it for cooking.
you have food. No, we're talking about the case where a person already has food for Shabbat.
You just store it. You store on your roof
If
and
it's valid.
Interesting.
Okay, we know what we're going to stop here. We're going to start with this very question next time because the answer till the Mishnah, the answer goes till the Mishnah, which we're not going to do now.
exactly what we're
Thank
Thank you.
908. Huh?
Nice to be back.
Yeah.
How's
Northwood.
Northwood?
Very good.